Production funding is provided by A. Reddix and Associates, Health Information Resource Center, offering short-term training for long-term professional careers in medical coding. HIRCVA.net.
Discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Welcome to Another View. Changes in Norfolk and Portsmouth city government, a distinguished congressional career spirals out of control, and a new Tyler Perry movie stirs controversy. Our roundtable is here to talk about it all. Please welcome Roger Chesley, columnist for the Virginian Pilot, Carol Pretlow, associate professor of political science with Norfolk State University, our resident community activist, Bill Thomas, and author, journalist, and development director with the Urban League of Hampton Roads, Wil LaVeist. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
I can't wait. I know we have a lot to talk about. Regina Williams, leaving the city of Norfolk, retiring after 12 years, $369,000 package. Controversial? Not controversial, Bill?
Welfare.
Welfare.
It's welfare. She quit her job. First of all, she's a very decent, loving woman. I've known her and respect her for that, and condolences for her brother passing away in Detroit last week. But Mr. Frame and the city council have got it wrong. She is not entitled to nothing more than a hard day's work and a dollar payment. She shouldn't. And she's saying, I'm entitled, I was going to stay here for another year. That's what's wrong with the liberal governments. And they're going to pay her some kind of golden parachute? This is my money. This is the city of Norfolk's citizens' money. They're being taken as suckers.
The liberal government?
Roger.
Absolutely.
Isn't that normally what governments often do?
What?
She had a contract, and she was expecting to stay on for a little while longer. They could have fired her. They were going to push her out. They did not want to deal with the pushback that was going to come from pushing her out.
But they
negotiated.
They did encourage her to leave.
And they negotiated a package for her.
She is not entitled to nothing more than a good, hard-working day and a payment for that day.
You believe that if you want to, but you know, as I, that most people at that level get something when they go out if it's negotiated. Name another city manager that leaves similar to that does not get a package like that.
That's what's wrong.
I bet you would get something like that at Hampton.
That
you
is
would
what's
negotiate
wrong.
something like that for yourself.
I would think so. I would think he wouldn't be saying that's not the students' money. You'd be saying that's my money. I worked hard.
No, don't put me in that position, because I'll tell you the honest God truth. I will work a day for days. You know, and Hampton is private. This is the citizens of Norfolk's money. It's not your money. It's not Regina Williams' money. It's the hardworking citizens' money.
And I was playing with you on that somewhat.
The truth of the matter is that those kinds of packages are also about who is next. It's not all just about the person, but it's about who is next. How do you separate people? And if you want to get quality people to come behind them to fill those positions, you've got to look at how are other cities handling these kinds of things? How are other corporations, if you expect to get someone of that caliber? And it's about who is next. And so that's what she got.
I'm not going to say anything about what the amount, whether it should have been less or more. But the fact of the matter is, it was going to be a negotiated settlement. She'd been there for 12 years. The average length of time for people in that position is 6. Right. So she went twice that amount. It's very much like Jim Oliver, who preceded her in the position. And so we can say what should be. We can say what should be.
She got a car?
But you know, it's kind of like when I was a news director, and some anchors would be upset because other anchors would negotiate a different package. Isn't it about, Carol, the negotiation?
I think it is all about the negotiations, and I don't think they label it entitlements. But when you go into a situation and you have a contract, you are looking at, okay, what's the worst case scenario, and what will happen if that once worst case scenario kicks in. And so all it was a negotiated settlement, as far as I could see. I don't think that maybe someone else would get in and negotiate something different, but you can't say that it was unfair because it was negotiated.
It's not right. Norfolk Grumman is laying off. Jeff Comm is getting ready to lay off. They found somebody within a couple of days. There are all kinds of people that qualify to be a city, quote, manager. It's what's wrong with government, and it's what's wrong with people who thinks government is business. You came from the private sector. Government is not business.
It is business. It is. It's about economics. It's about a government, whether it's city, state, or national, has to operate in an economic framework, and that is, I have to get the best deal under the best set of circumstances. It's a business.
So you
and the mayor did not want to. He did not want to. Yes, was she pushed out? Yes, but he did not want to push it to an actual public vote where the council would have voted to see whether she had stayed in.
Why not?
He didn't want to.
Why not?
That is not his style.
It's not his money.
His style.
It's the taxpayers' money. You guys don't get it.
He's voted. He's reelected every time he runs. He's the elected mayor. He wasn't going to do it, and so this is what they came up with. And I think I find it funny that you're pushing on this because you know most city managers around for that length of time was going to do something similar. That might not make it right, but that is what the current practice is.
And who would want to come and be the city manager
Exactly.
if they're separated in that way?
Well, speaking of who's coming next, Marcus Jones, a lot of discussion among some council people that he got in too quickly. We didn't get a chance to really vet other people, but yet the city workers seem to feel this is a good thing.
And I think that, again, who he's going to be working for, his immediate supervisors, the council, it's about votes and the number of votes. It's best for him or a person coming into that situation to know that they have a council that feels good about them, because as the elections go through and people change, he may not have the votes, and then he may be faced with a situation where he's losing his job. So if the people in the city government feel good about him, the people on the council, he's got the votes to keep him in position, it makes sense.
Bill, you just shaking your head.
Oh, I just think it's sad. I think it's a telling tale of our society where we feel that we can take other people's money and do what we want to do with it. It's not the city council's people's money.
I didn't say it was.
There is risk. It's not a risk reverse. It's not a risk adverse situation. You go to a job, there's risk entailed in it. Nothing's guaranteed.
Well, nothing's guaranteed, Bill, but at the same time, if you've put in 12 years into a position and you have a contract and you have an opportunity to negotiate that contract, isn't that everybody's right?
It's not an entitlement, and it was a bad deal for the taxpayers of the city of Norfolk.
Carol.
Well, if it were a bad deal for the city of Norfolk, then the people who elected the mayor should have made their point plain when they elected the mayor.
They're all Democrats. That's why the Republicans are out in Virginia Beach.
They'll have a chance to do it later.
It's a nonpartisan on the local government level. You know that, Bill.
Nonpartisan. That was something they set up so people wouldn't know if they were voting for Democrats or Republicans. That's a shell game.
So you're not naive about it.
No.
So then you know how this works when you hire a city manager and when a city manager leaves.
And I also
you're not
know
naive
how to
about
hire a city manager. I'm not that naive to give away people's money like you are.
Oh, God. Oh,
yeah, it's not your money either. You live in Hampton.
I lived in Norfolk for quite a while.
Yeah, that's true. He does live in Hampton now. That is a good
leftover money in Norfolk.
Let's take it up
And some good friends.
Let's take it up to the national level. Charlie Rangel, not looking so good.
Oh no.
And so again, will he be remembered for his legacy in terms of civil rights and in terms of all the things that he's done, or will he be remembered because he's going to be censured in front of the entire Congress?
Ironically, being a New Yorker, and ironically, Adam Clayton Powell left in much the same way. Okay, how do we remember Adam Clayton Powell? I don't think most people remember exactly what he did at the end of his career. I think he's remembered more for his accomplishments, and I think that the same will be for Rangel. And I think that is also just ironic about how you succeed people, and the decisions that you make early have a way of coming around later. And it's just very ironic. People should go back and look at Adam Clayton Powell's history, the relationship with Rangel, how that all changed hands. And I think that they will find a lot of irony there.
Carol, let me ask you this. Is this a case also, though, of us, meaning African Americans, and because this is something that people talk about all the time, where we try to do the same thing that our white counterpart may or may not do, yet we get caught?
Yeah, unfortunately, when I looked at some of the news clips from the Rangel situation, that's what I felt. I was like, wait a minute, there were other congressmen and other situations who have done similar things, and it wasn't this big hurrah about it. And I also agree that Adam Clayton Powell had his problems, but in the end, his legacy was there. What he had accomplished, what he achieved was there. And so I would hope that it would be the same with Rangel. Unfortunately, though, when you look at the political dynamics now and the situation the Democrats are in the country, I'm not sure that that legacy is going to survive, because we have a media that is basically unfriendly to certain perspectives. And
I think you always are in trouble when you have to defend somebody who does wrong.
There you go.
You know,
okay.
you can say, well, they didn't get Joe when he was breaking the law too. Well, that's a pretty bad defense when you go in front of a judge.
Yeah, it's not a defense in front of a judge.
You know, you shouldn't go that way. You should do what you're supposed to do at power. And here's another thing. Does it say something about people who are in power for a long time that they think that the rules don't apply to them anymore?
And that kind of goes to my point also, because, you know, in conversations around the kitchen table, folks say, you know, he should have known better, and he should have known that he couldn't get away with it.
And I really don't understand why he was so adamant about running again for re-election. It's just, why are you doing this? You know, what's the point?
Well, that's his life, his ego. I mean, that's what comes into it. And I think that we should be careful about bringing color into the context, because if you're fair, okay, maybe I should change it. No, because if you're fair about it, when folks do wrong, they get it. Tom DeLay is going to be coming up soon. Does he have a hearing coming up soon? I mean, so I think we should really be careful about bringing color. It's not about color, it's about character.
All right. It's about arrogance. It's about arrogance, and he stayed too long, and he was too powerful, and the people took him down. When you're in a key position like he was, in a money committee chair, he wielded a lot of power. He stayed too long.
Well, I don't believe in age discrimination. I don't know if he stayed
too long. He stayed. See, I'm not politically correct.
As long as you are affected.
He stayed too long. He wasn't affected. He stayed too long.
Well, his constituents in Harlem voted him back.
Right. I was going to say, you
apparently they thought he was
congressman.
What has he accomplished in Harlem? He let Bill Clinton come in there and run all the black people out of there by building up those blocks.
You bring it in color.
I didn't say color. I didn't say color. I said Bill Clinton was the first black president anyhow, according to most liberals.
Well,
so it's not about color.
What? I guess I'm going to take a lantern with me the next time and see if I can find a black person in Harlem now, because you say they've all gone.
You need to go walk the streets again, my friends, and see what Harlem really looks like. Harlem is beginning to look like what D.C. used to look like.
His constituents voted him back overwhelmingly. I thought you were a local and states' rights and type of person. If the constituents are voting him back, obviously they think he's effective.
Actually, this has nothing to do with me. A man made a mistake. He stayed too long. He was too old. He should have sat down, and he didn't, and he got burned.
I do think it comes back to, you know, you're there to do the people's business, and if you don't do the people's business and you break the law or you have certain allegations against you, you know, you're going to be in trouble. And that's the case with him.
But at the end of the day, he was a good man. He served his country. He stayed there a long time. He tried to do a little bit of good, and he's okay. But his war record is absolutely admirable, and the way he did walking after Adam Clayton Powell, that was a good thing. But now, again, things
he's well respected in New York. I had an opportunity to meet him and interview him. He's a great man, and he's well respected. And you know,
he stayed too long.
He who's without sin cast
the first
stone.
Okay.
But if you do sin, know how to duck. All right? Learn how to duck. Learn how to find the back door.
I get you. You got that over there. You're gonna leave me hanging.
Just left me hanging.
All right, For Colored Girls recently came out. Tyler Perry's latest movie. We have a clip that we want to show first, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Lyrics, no voices, unseen performances.
Ordinary. Brown braided woman with big legs and full lips. Become yourself.
Who's seen it, first of all?
I saw it.
You saw all three of you. Roger, you haven't seen it.
I don't plan to see it.
Why not?
I have no desire to see it.
Just because the subject matter, or why don't you want to see it?
Is there any black men? Are there any black men who are portrayed positively in that movie? Well, I don't know. Let's see.
I'm surprised at you as a journalist. I'm surprised. I'm just shocked.
Wait a minute. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. I guess if we were in that movie, we'd all be typecast as being negative. I have no desire to see that movie. And wait a minute.
Let him finish the point, and then we'll go. Okay.
Knowing from where the original play came and how that was done, I think that spoke to the time that it came out, and I believe it was in the late 70s. I think Rashad Allison had a very fine commentary about this in the pilot recently. I agreed with many of the same points that he made, that perhaps it was needed at that time. I don't think that the same material plays well now. And quite frankly, I don't like being told that all black men are, I don't know, violent, beat up their women, and are just overwhelmingly worthless. Other than that, it's a great movie.
Carol, but did you take it from that same perspective?
Well, initially I didn't. I looked at the film as an opportunity. I saw it as some three very strong black women, and I saw that our story is so often untold. But fortunately, my students pulled my coattails about this, and some of the gentlemen in my class said that they felt it was throw black men under the bus time, and that they didn't thought it was a negative portrayal. And I thought back to my life and the men who had been so actively a part of my life, and I said, well, that was one story. If I were to tell my story, or you were to tell yours, or some other, there would be some other characters, but this was one portrayal.
You know, it's interesting because I saw the movie too, and I know I'm not giving an opinion one way or the other than to say that when you all brought it up, the men in the group said, you know, we need to talk about this. I had to go back and really think about the male characters, because I think I was more focused on the female characters.
I don't think I told you we had to talk about
it. These two did. These two did. Go ahead, Bill.
All black men aren't. Anybody isn't anything like that. So that's, let's get that off the table. There are black men. In fact, and get this month's Ebony magazine, and it shows the guy who's head of American Express, and the guy who's head of Citicorp, and great leaders we have here as well. Put that aside. There's a huge problem. When 7 out of 10 of our black males don't graduate from high school, there's a huge problem where 80% of our kids born today are illegitimate or are without the benefit of marriage. There's a huge problem. And they're not taking care of their responsibilities. And they have lost church. They've lost God. They've lost their beliefs. And my mother used to always tell me, and she didn't want us integrated into the white schools, because she said those white kids don't obey their parents, they're disobedient, and I'm not going to have that in our household. What we tried to do, maybe a little bit of Charlie Rangel, we tried to act like the other people acted as men, but we're not holding our candle. Now, and you have to admit that. When you see all of these young women out here struggling with these babies, it's an epidemic. But it's an epidemic when 40%, according to NIH, when 40% of our women from 19 to 35 die from HIV.
Yes,
I mean,
the
black men, that's just intolerable.
But I don't know that what was depicted in the movie that I have not seen, but that I do remember the play. I don't know that what you're saying really correlates to what was in the movie.
I saw the theme. I like Tyler Perry, and I like what he's done. And I think that's what he's saying. We have driven black women absolutely crazy. I mean, I'm serious. It's
Will.
in my judgment, single black women.
That's an interesting perspective. Will.
Well, I have seen the movie, and to Roger's point, there is one positive black male character in the movie, right? However, the difficulty, the problem with that is even he is also victimized by a black male because his wife is unable to bear children. His wife has been traumatized by a black male, and so that is impacting his life. And so the way it impacted me was, if you are a black male and you do the right things, you don't get caught up in the crimes and the stereotypes that you spoke of. Even at the end of that rainbow, as I wrote about in my column, and we talked about this on my radio show, even at that point, there's nothing for you to look forward to, because you'll end up with a woman who's been victimized by a black man. So I mean, there's no return.
So there's no positive return.
Yeah. So for me, Tyler Perry, who I admire, his story, what he had was an opportunity because it's an adaptation of the play. There were no males in the play. So he had an opportunity to explain some of these things and deal with some of the issues that Bill points out. And he had an opportunity to address some solutions. So for me, it could have worked if he would have had Hill Harper's character, his father. And maybe his father was a positive black male who was married to a woman who had been married several years. And the reason why Hill was able to, but we never saw that. So I can tell you also, for a women's standpoint, it's not healthy for women to constantly see this theme of how black women are constantly victims, nor to see the theme that black men
would also rise above.
Survive.
I can tell you, let me tell you something. In my theater where I saw it, I saw one black woman got up and walked out and said, "I've seen enough of it, I can't deal with this." And my own daughter, who I saw with my daughter and wife, after the movie was over, my daughter didn't want to talk about the movie because the message to her wasn't about rising above and this and that. The message to her was, look, I've seen that before. I've seen The Color Purple. I've seen Waiting to Exhale. I've seen that.
So then is the point then that we should not be revisiting those themes anymore?
No, I think we need balance. I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about what's going on in our community, but let's give balance and context. Let's not keep talking about the same thing.
But the balance is the movie is accurate. That's the tragic balance.
I don't see
when women, I don't know how old your daughter is.
17 years old.
My daughter is now 22. And they talk about the possibility or probability that they will not get married if they don't get married before they're 30. I mean, it's a huge argument. My daughter won't even go to a medical school or go to a school in Nebraska or Kansas because she thinks that diminishes her probability. I mean, that's how much is on the mind. And what she see out there in the streets is black men not taking care of their business. And there's a great amount that are, that's not a question, but the vast majority are not taking care of their business.
But we're not portraying the ones who are in media.
And that's exactly.
Well, why do we need to have media? Why don't we do it in our church? We used to do it in our church. Why don't we do it in our communities?
Bill, the media is a powerful vehicle to spreading messages and impacting people. What's needed is balance. Tyler is in a position where he can add some, even in the play, the male who was an Army vet and had all those issues, even in the play, it was explained the context of how that happened to him. So what we're saying is that the balance that you provide could have an impact on the streets.
I see plenty black men doing what they need to do on the streets. We need to see more of that, and then not watching some movies.
So you're making my point.
But I don't need to see a movie. I don't need to see a movie to see that.
Maybe nobody here does, but there are people whose interpretation of our community comes from the media.
So somebody else determines how you live your life or how they think or feel about you.
I don't think it's how you live your life, but you have to admit the media has a huge impact on the way, the way a community is perceived. I mean, that's part of the reason.
Media? I mean, so what? All of you guys are media.
Which is part of the reason why we do this show. I mean, that's just part of again, trying to make sure that the perception of the community as a whole is different from a lot of the ways that it's portrayed.
And I had no desire to see that. I think it would have been, and you know, the play and the movie, they are what they are. And I know Tyler Perry has tried to make other images in his movies of positive black men and positive black women. I think for me, a lot of the characters are too one-dimensional, though, and I guess I have a problem with that in some of his movies as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no desire to see that.
Okay, you're gonna have the last word.
Yeah, I had interviewed Dennis Johnson, a former Showtime executive. He came to Hampton University. I interviewed him on my show. And one of the things he said, Tyler Perry had found out a formula. He knows Tyler. He said he found out a formula that works. Okay, but he also said now, okay, there's a time to add balance and not keep reintroducing the same old, redone, overdone stereo. Oscar Micheaux back in the early 20s was bringing balance and doing things. Why are we reintroducing these old stereotypes to a new generation?
And we got to go. We are out of time. That's the last word. Thank you all so much, as always. And we'll see you after the new year for another roundtable discussion. And we'll be right back right after this look at what's happening in Hampton Roads. And before we go, I just want to remind you of the twinning ceremony that is happening between the city of Norfolk and Tema, Ghana in Africa. We did a story on this a couple of weeks ago, and the delegation was postponed in coming over, so that has been moved to Wednesday, December the 1st at 4:30 p.m. The twinning program and reception, everyone is invited to come down to Waterside and enjoy that ceremony. And that's our show for this evening. Please visit us on our website, anotherview.tv, and sign up for our eView newsletter, a once-a-week reminder of the upcoming show topics. And become a fan of Another View on Facebook. Next week, African American Girl Scouts in 2010. Wait till you see what they're up to. We'll see you next time for Another View.
Production funding is provided by A. Reddix and Associates, Health Information Resource Center, offering short-term training for long-term professional careers in medical coding. HIRCVA.net.